So I'm sitting here with Drew, who reached out to me via email after seeing our trailer. And first off, Drew, just thanks for spending the time and reaching out to me. If you don't mind, just maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Sure. My name is Drew Fout. I live in Austin, Texas, and I grew up in Southwest Kansas, kind of a country boy at heart. Moved to the city, and I'm 41 years old, and I've lost a little weight after putting a lot on.
Yeah, so I think in your email you say that your highest was 385. Can you talk a little bit about that and what led you to that point, and maybe just so we know how much you've lost, where you're at now?
Yeah, I got to 385 through just a very sedentary lifestyle and just taking taking my health for granted. I think that's probably the biggest thing. It's also part of who I am and my family. We gathered around the dinner table whenever we were getting together. I think any family reunion that we ever had always had a lot of food involved. But I came from a background where it was fine to eat as much as you want as long as you cleaned that plate and didn't waste any of it. So a lot of Southern cooking. I think my family is most infamously known for chocolate gravy and biscuits, which if you've never had that is one of the most delicious meals ever, but also probably one of the most fattening meals you can ever have. Lots of sugar in it. But I got married when I was really young. I had given up sports when I went to college, and just gradually over time just went from 220 when I was a freshman in college, and then finished my senior year of high school, and I played football, basketball, and tennis, and kept in shape and was working out a lot, to just going from that to 230 to 250 to 280 to 300, and then just kept that slow climb up till I hit 385.
And were you aware of that? What was going whenever you went from 230 to 240 to 250, and then just continuing up to there. Were you aware of it, and did it occur to you to do anything about it at the time, or was it kind of really a moment where you woke up one day and realized that something had drastically changed?
No, I was aware of it going on, but I had been kind of conditioned over time. Well, you're just a big man, and I just kind of accepted it as part of me. Well, I'm just going to be big, and I'm going to always be big. I remember hitting 350 and trying to lose some weight and really get after it, but I did it on my own and didn't have a real great plan, and I worked 10 pounds, but then put five more back on, and just the complete disappointment in being able to make any kind of headway on it's what kind of set me back to well, maybe I'm just going to be big. Maybe I'll just be one of those big guys my entire life. I had some moments over the past few years that were kind of, I guess, unsettling or just very disheartening. I think one of the biggest was taking an airplane ride and basically having to wedge myself in the seat. One of the moments that kind of hit me very hard, but I didn't quite know what to do about it at the time, was my wife and I are big sci-fi and fantasy nuts. We love the Harry Potter series, and back when they opened up the Universal Studios in Florida Harry Potter ride, we went down that summer and took the kids and sweated like crazy, waited in a long line, got to go to the Harry Potter ride, even sat out front in the display chair, check to see if you fit. And, I wedged myself in really tight, and I was able to fit. But when I got on the ride, they could not bring the arms over and put me in. And unlike a conventional roller coaster, the ride is moving as you get on. You have to walk up as the ride moves through. And they, sir, you have to get off, or we're going to have to stop the ride, because they couldn't make it fit. So that was one of those low points to me. But I honestly just didn't know how to deal with it or what to do about it.
You mentioned in an email to me that your weight nearly destroyed your marriage, your health, and career. Can you talk about how your weight affected each of these things, and why it was that it almost destroyed them?
The weight contributed to each of those aspects of my life. The the health, of course, was very obvious. My job is very stressful. I work for a forensics lab, and I supervise one of the sections, and it's a very high stress life. But on top of that, I was also going to no lengths to try to reduce the stress. So I had high blood pressure, and I had a huge amount of weight on my body. Um, that also led to me drinking a lot of caffeine to try to get my body active. Try to wake up in the morning. I would hit every morning with a 16-ounce bottle of Dr. Pepper, and follow it up with another one at about 9 o'clock, and I would follow one up at lunch. I probably had about a 8 to 12 pack a day consumption of Dr. Pepper, which I was looking for the sugar rush and the caffeine. I also, would inhale my food to get back. I wasn't thinking about what I was eating, just what's available, what makes me feel full. And it really strained my relationship with all the people around me at work, because you would either catch me at a good moment where I've got a good sugar high going, or you would catch me at that low moment where I was really needing something to balance myself out, which made me hard to deal with as a supervisor. Uh, my my marriage was the one that I think really kind of hit home for me. Was my wife effectively deciding that she was just kind of living with a man who has a very short lifespan. And I think I robbed her. My wife is very beautiful. She's a redhead, and she's real smart. She's real outgoing. She's real sweet. And I've robbed her of having a decent looking husband over the last few years, or the last decade and a half or so, since I really put on the weight. I know that once you get married, that's the commitment you make, is that I'm with that person forever, regardless. But you know, I was doing that without taking into account that she would be attracted to me the whole time. It was that, well, we're together. It doesn't matter what I look like, but it's not the case, and it had really over the years just really strained our relationship, and it can be embarrassing. I know that it has been embarrassing to her to introduce me to new people that she meets through her job or other places, because, she looks so much different than me. You can put her beside me, we make the number 10 at one point. So with that in mind, our marriage just was kind of deteriorating, because I believe she was tired of just living with a man who wasn't who she married, and also the fact that I had not taken my health into true consideration, and that I was just letting myself completely fade out. And that's something that hit hard when the doctor was telling me that, basically you're going to die young, and we can't do a whole lot about it unless you do something about it.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. Did you have a rock bottom moment, or a specific point at which you decided to make a change, or was it more of a gradual transition to realize that something needed to change?
It was kind of a rock bottom moment. I mean, I knew things had to change. I knew I couldn't keep going the way I was, that I was just basically setting my life on auto destruct. But it was the moment I had to find a new primary care physician. My job was sending me to Malaysia for a trip to do some work-related stuff. And I needed a new doctor. I'd been in Austin for about 3 years, and I'm not a fan of doctors. My last doctor was kind of a cranky old man, and his basic way of telling me that I need to get in shape was, hey, you're fat, right? And I would just look at him and just like, yeah, I know I'm fat, and you need to do something about that. Yeah, I'm aware I need to do something about that. And that was the extent of our conversations. Well, when I went to go find a new primary care physician to get some medication for the trip to Malaysia, because it's a malaria-rich zone, I guess you could call it that, and some anti-diarrheal medication, some anti-everything medication. Whatever you needed, I was there to go get it, and to get a couple shots. And I checked out and found a doctor near me and saw on her website that she was very much into nutrition. I was like, well, that's something I'm interested in. You know, I do need to lose some weight. And when I got there, she met with me, and she was concerned, and not concerned in a way where it was just a general, oh, well, that poor man. I mean, she actually took it very personally and sat down with me and said, hey, you've got some problems. We can't solve them before you go, but when you get back, I want to meet with you. I want to run some blood tests, and we need to have a very serious talk. And of course, right before a big trip, you're like, well, that's a lot to take in. But I went ahead and I said, great. You know, as soon as I get back at the end of April, we'll schedule this and we'll have a meeting. So I went and did my trip, came back, and I made an appointment with her, and she did blood tests. And I actually said, all right, well, blood tests will be ready. Let's schedule you for a week, and we'll have a discussion with you. And she actually called me and pulled me in the office 2 working days before. She said, your blood results are back. I need you here. I need your wife here. Of course, I'm not thinking anything weight related. I'm thinking, oh, crap, I've got cancer. Because why are you bringing my wife in to tell me I'm fat? Well, that's not actually why she brought me in and my wife in. She brought me in to tell me I was now a type 2 diabetic. So that was a point where she just said, you know, you can take medication, you can continue on this path, you're going to die young. She said, or I have another way to go. She said, we can change your lifestyle, change the way you live, food choices you make, and if you throw in a little bit of exercise, I think you can make a real difference in your life. And at that point, it was just one of those moments where everything that I knew I was doing wrong in the back of my head, but never really consciously, you know, just sat down and evaluated, just all kind of hit me at once. And I went home and had a very good conversation with my wife about what this means. And she said, I want you healthy. I don't want you to die young. I want you to be in my life. And she had, her grandparents lived into their late 80s, and they had been married for 60 years. And she said, that's what I want. She said, I'm upset because you've let yourself go this way. I'm upset because you aren't taking care of the relationship that we have. And I want you to fix it. I said, I do too, and I think this doctor actually knows what's going to take to do it. So we made a plan. She started talking to me about my diet and started talking to me about my sedentary lifestyle. I mean, I was basically as white as a sheet of paper because I saw so little sunlight. And she said, you're vitamin D deficient. You are, you know, just completely out of control. Your cholesterol's high. All this great news, all the great news came across. And she sat down and said, here's how we fix it. And we started going to a just plant-based diet. And that's very hard for me, especially in Austin. It is possibly the barbecue central of Texas. And I loved it. One of my favorite places to go was Salt Lick, which is a very famous barbecue place there in Austin. And on Sundays, which is my favorite day to go, you could get stuff that's not on the menu, which was potatoes au gratin, green bean casserole, and you could actually get a full set of baby back ribs. And their barbecue sauce and their smoking technique is just fantastic. It's one of my favorite things. And I haven't had any in almost a year. And it's been incredible. But I think that doing that in Austin, because there's a lot of health conscious people there, I actually can go out and get fairly fast food at vegan places, and it's been a big help. But I'm also reducing the amount of oil in my diet and just sticking to as much raw food or cooked food with, I season the heck out of it to stay away from as much salt and oil as possible.
I know that place. I've definitely been to Salt Lake before and enjoyed it. And what an incredible story about the doctor. And I also do not enjoy doctors at all, but I also know that I never had anything even close to that experience when going to a doctor. So it's incredible to hear that somebody has that experience, in a non-judgmental, in a truly, in a way that somebody's truly caring for you and not just seeing, your symptoms or anything else. So where did things go from there? As far as physically, because I know you kind of talked about how you changed your food, but it sounded like one of those components was also physical activity. Did you get started into something? Did you pick up a hobby? What kind of physical activity did you start right after deciding to make the change?
I don't know if it's hobby, but I picked up getting up out of bed early and going outside. I do cardio. I mean, I used to lift weights, but the doctor said, stay away from weights. You're too heavy. I need you to walk. So I have to commute into Austin, which is a terrible commute. I was rededicating myself to my relationship with my wife. So I was getting up early and helping her with the kids, helping around the house, just being the husband I'm supposed to be. The one that I think every wife should expect, and that I haven't been in a long time. So I was getting up extra early and just spending an hour in the morning walking. And it was a slog, and I will not lie to you. It is so hard when you've never really done it this way. And I just got up, I went out, and I said, I'm going to go walk for an hour. Now, granted, the first hour was not very far. Effectively, I would walk for 30 minutes through the neighborhood, get as far away from the house as I could. And when I hit the 30-minute mark, I would turn around and start walking back towards the house. And when I first started out, I was about a mile. That's how slow the pace was. And then as things progressed, I started getting further away from the house because I could move a little more, because the weight was starting to drop. And it was very easy to see because I had a 52-inch waist. And I now had gone down from a 52 to a 50 just fairly quickly, and then from a 52 to a 48. And then things were I was basically starting to wear clown clothes because I was starting to shrink up inside of them. And it was a very interesting way to go. I was changing what I was eating. I was moving. And that was the most important thing. It wasn't anything incredible. It wasn't anything particularly, special. I was just moving. And that morning spent alone was really key for me, just getting up. And I spent a lot of time in that moment when you're walking. You have a lot of conversations with yourself because the music will take you so far, but when you're not really into the music, you're not into the activity, you're just really anything to keep your mind active. It's changed now. I actually went this morning and did 4 miles, and I had to skip it yesterday because we were traveling, and I really had a need to get out and go get that exercise time. And but just slowly over a year, I added more time and more pace, and as I lost more weight, it became easier. And as I lost more weight, I started to get encouragement. The physical activity just started becoming more natural and becoming more desirable. I liked it. I never liked running. I thought all the people in cross country when I was in high school were all nuts. But now I actually see the benefit of it and the fun of it. I like having a nice path. I like having a good place to go and just enjoying my time, just keeping up a pace and listening to music, or I actually will listen to podcasts or blogs while I'm going.
And you mentioned, at first you didn't necessarily like the exercise. What was that experience like with the food? At first was it a struggle to eat some of those things that now are kind of staples in your diet, and was that a slow transition, or were you extremely adventurous with the food change? How did that transpire?
I've always been adventurous with food. I love all the shows on the cooking networks. Huge fan. Alton Brown is like one of my heroes because he explains the science behind it, and I'm a scientist, so it always appealed to me. But I love fresh fruit. I love fresh vegetables. But I always wanted the meats, and I always wanted the fats and everything. And it was more of a hard and difficult journey to not want to eat the meat, because that's where all that fat and flavor live. But I was eating enough of the fruits and vegetables that I was getting the flavors I was looking for. and I was getting the fullness that my doctor was telling me about. She's like, eat the leafy greens, eat this high fiber stuff, and you're gonna feel full. Because that's what I was always afraid of. My problem before was, yeah, I added exercise to my routine, but I didn't change anything else about my diet or lifestyle. So that's where I think I was failing. And once I changed to eating things that made my body work better, it all just kind of fit together, and I was able to lose this weight and get to where I was enjoying the exercise a lot better because my body was processing everything better, or at least it felt that way.
And where are you at now as far as, I know you mentioned your doctor said you were on the verge or you had type 2 diabetes. Where are you at health-wise now with the things that used to, affect you?
That's actually one of the greatest things. I just had my blood work came back last month from my last visit, and I'm all back within the normal range. In fact, I have a better A1C than my doctor, who's very healthy as well. And it's great. My cholesterol, my triglycerides, all that actually put me in a negative factor for a heart event. It's really completely changed my blood chemistry. It's been fantastic. I'm still considered diabetic, but everything's under control. My medication is metformin that I take, but my doctor's cut it in half. She said, looking at my results, I'm still insulin resistant, which is part of the way that's the effect that my body had from eating that way all those years. But that if I keep going, possibly in a couple years, I'll be off of it altogether. And I know we talked about Tim and his blog and the fact that he's just taking B12 supplements. That's where I hope to be in a couple of years is where he's at, which is just I'm taking that B12 supplement just because I can't get that from my diet anymore.
Awesome. Yeah, and if this is your first podcast or YouTube, we're talking about Tim Kaufman, who I think is the way that originally we connected, and his blog is Fat Man Rants. Has a great individual, great blog, lots of good stuff. You talked before about how your health, your marriage, and career were almost destroyed by your weight. What's your marriage and your career like? You kind of talked about your health, but what are those two things like now compared to 2, 3, 4 years ago?
I'll start with my career. That's a little bit easier to talk about, but it's fantastic. I get along with everybody so much better. My personal interaction. I've actually had one of the directors at our agency comment on the fact that he can tell that I've changed. It's a complete 180 on where I was. And instead of managing people, he said, I'm leading people now, which was a huge compliment to me. And I've had remarks from my team and my supervisors, that it appears that I'm now in everything for the long game. Instead of just short, quick fixes, how do I fix this? How do I fix that? That I'm working towards bringing a team together where everything can function without me because I got everybody working together and communicating effectively, which is when you're a supervisor or manager, that's the whole thing now. It's to lead a team, to leave yourself a legacy behind you instead of just, hey, well, he was a great supervisor. No, he was a great team leader. Look at the way all his people have thrived underneath him and the way that he's affected each of them. And that's really come a long way. And I've actually had several people just like, hey, when I started this job with you, you aren't the same guy. And that's been really great. My marriage, which is a little bit harder to talk about, but it's seen in, it's hard to describe it in that 180 term because I think we've gone better. I no longer have the marriage I had. We've gotten rid of that one. That marriage is dead and buried, and I now have a significantly better one. It's actually much better than I thought it could be. For those guys that are looking at this, I don't want to get into it deep, but if you have a poor sex life and you're fat, there's a reason for that. If you want to have a better sex life, get thin. And for all you women who are watching this post. Yeah, it works that way. It just really does. But it's also that connection with my wife has really changed. The fact that we talk more, that she's not, you know, upset at me because I am who I am. She's now happy and proud of me because of who I am and what I'm doing. And it's changed our relationship. It's become a more personal, more intimate relationship than we've had in decades. We talk to each other on a much more closer basis because she's not afraid of upsetting me or hurting my feelings by, saying something like, "Hey, you're I'm worried about your health. I'm worried about, your impact on the kids." We have two kids. We have a 13-year-old young lady, and we have an 8-year-old rough and tumble little boy. And I would ignore them to sit and to just say I was stressed and I needed to relax. And now, to reduce stress, I go grab my son or my daughter. Hey, let's go down to the park. My son bought a badminton set at one of those oversized ones at one of the stores here recently. And he's like, "Hey, Dad, let's go play this." And I know that it would take months for me to do that before, but now I'm just like, "Yeah, let's go. Let's go have fun." And we just go out there. And my wife went out for a jog herself. She's like, "All right, well, I'm heading out the house, and we'll see you in a little bit." My daughter, who is real big into her friends and her social media, wanted to stay at the house. So we're working on getting her out of the house, but it's thoroughly changed my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids. Some of the better aha moments are I was going through some photos on my computer, and my daughter was over my shoulder, and she goes, "Dad, you were huge." I said, "Honey, you're in that photo. You you were right there beside me. Did you not know?" She, "Well, no. I mean, you were just always Dad, but now you're so small." And this was back when I just lost 100 pounds, and she was really happy for me. And my mother, about that same time, had visited the next weekend, and she was like, "I can put my arms around you." And so it's moments like that that have not just changed my marriage, it's changed all my relationships. Just, I feel better. And when you feel better, it makes relationships easier.
That's all incredible, especially love. I'm just thinking about the example that your kids must see now, in the change that you made, and that you took ownership of that, and to have goals, and to realize that no matter where you are, that nothing is beyond your reach still. Is there any advice that you would give to someone who is maybe first in the beginning stages of starting their journey, and help them realize that there's hope to along the way, and that there's hope to get to where you've gone now?
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to think this was easy, or I didn't screw it up, or I didn't have setbacks along the way. There's those moments at first, especially at the beginning, where you're just like, this isn't making any difference. You're not making progress fast enough. This isn't for you. Just accept, go back to the way you were. You were happier there. And I'm going to tell you, no, I wasn't happy there. I was never happy there. And it's not the making the big results. It's not about making the big strides. That it's about the perseverance. That it's a lot of little steps that got me to where I was. And take the moment to enjoy those little victories. When I made a mistake, my wife and I were in the car together, and she had left her Dr. Pepper. I was drinking water, and she was drinking Dr. Pepper out of similar cups. And she had gotten out, and I grabbed her Dr. Pepper, and we were out of the car. And I've never done this in my life. I went and took a sip of it. It was Dr. Pepper. I tasted it, and I spit it out. I've never spit out Dr. Pepper in my entire life. But it was one of those moments where I figured out that, hey, you really want this. You really want to make the change. You want to be better, a better person, health and personally, and spiritually. It's just, it all goes hand in hand. It all ties back into how you treat yourself. Because I've learned over this that you can't treat anybody any better than you treat yourself. And if you don't treat yourself very well, you're not going to treat others very well. And don't don't give up when you hit those rough spots. You're gonna hit them. You're gonna have setbacks. Mine was never a big greasy cheeseburger, but you know what? I did have a couple Pizza Hut cheese breadsticks along the way where I knew better. I knew I shouldn't be having them, but you know, I didn't give up at that point. It wasn't, well, this just restarts everything. It's that moment of, all right, you had a moment of weakness. You enjoy the fact you had that. Now get back on the plan. Get back where you are. Look at what you've done and keep at it.
And then similarly, is there anything that you would, if you could go back in time and give advice to yourself at the start, is there anything that you think maybe would have helped you?
Yeah, don't be afraid to listen to your doctor. I think that one of the things I was really slow to do was to take her advice on different foods to eat. And it's hard just as a person to admit other people are right and you're wrong. But oh my word, I'm so wrong. I'm eating different vegetables that I never thought would be interesting before, and they taste fantastic. I love stuff more raw now than I ever thought I would. And you know what? Sometimes just picking up a new vegetable, picking up a new spice, that's been a big thing too. I never thought that I would really enjoy Indian and Thai food like I do. But it's easy to go eat some vegan stuff from them. We'll get some rice noodles. We got some great different spices. And if you like things hot, definitely can go that direction. Of course, living in Texas, there's a lot of Mexican food. And they will look at you weird when you say no cheese on things. However, I enjoy some good serrano peppers, some good jalapenos in my food, and it all tastes great. And you can eat that and eat vegan and be very happy. It's great food, it's great spices, and I think I actually have a much better palate than I ever did when I was eating meat. And granted, I'm not saying you can't do this and eat meat. It's just that wasn't my path. My path was to eat this way and to let my body work the way it's intended to. So I think my biggest advice to me would have been, hey, don't be afraid of food. Just let it happen and pick out the things you like. You don't have to eat the okra. It's okay.
That's all great. And I guess lastly, where can people connect with you, find out more about what you're doing, and connect with you?
Right now, just online. I'm just on Facebook. You can find me at Drew Fout. But I am looking to start a blog just to try to get some of the different things out. Tim's really encouraged me on fatmanrants.com to kind of put that out there. I see a lot of myself in what he does, and I enjoy his humor, but I also enjoy the bluntness of some of the things he says. And I'd like to see more people who want to move this direction, who want to have this healthier lifestyle, to make this change, to have some other people to go, hey, I get that. That's what I'm experiencing too. So I'll post that on Facebook whenever I get that started.
Great. And I'll share a link to your Facebook page. And Drew, thanks again for spending the time. Thanks for your inspiration, for being honest and candid. And congratulations on your new relationship with your wife, with your body, with your family, with everybody around you. And hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, and thanks for the time.
Appreciate it. Have a nice day.
You too.